Welcome to the Pulse Project. Pandemics had an effect on everyone, whether it's physical health, mental health, effects of being isolated, financial stress, and more. This project's designed to show you the resources you have available to help you move forward during these tough times. Welcome to the Pulse Project. It's been brought to you by Bank, Community Development Partnership, and Witty Media. What this is Beaver County Resources. It's a project that was started last year due to trying to connect COVID with lower to moderately income community members. And we interviewed Trails last time, and you spoke about D.O.V.E, and now that it's back, Sana was like, yo, why don't we talk about this D.O.V.E program? So yeah, let's get into it. First off, who are you? I guess my name is Seth Whitted.
My name is Shauna Clark.
My name is Colby Cole. I am the director of D.O.V.E.
Okay.
I'm Bethany Buckman, and I'm the behavioral specialist for D.O.V.E.
Okay.
And Dr. Lord, Becca Lord, she is the occupational therapist for D.O.V.E, but she's with as a participant right now.
Okay.
Nice.
All right. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about D.O.V.E. Let's go back through it. And if you got any, you jump right in.
So it's funny because COVID was kind of like a blessing for this project because we saw a niche, a need, but there was some agencies and organizations kind of filling that need already. So we kind of just continued through COVID, we continued to strive to get better, to serve better as an agency. And so we partnered with Duquesne University a couple years back with a group of occupational therapists that actually came into Trails and did some assessments for our agency, for our staff, for our participants, and we partnered with Neighborhood North to do that assessment. And throughout that assessment, we found that the families really needed some individualized support when it comes to their kids and their older kids, transitioning age kids. And so we kind of started playing around with that thought, with that idea. We created a after-school, middle school program called Trailblazers. Okay. That was a curriculum-based program. That program was to kind of reignite the kids' desire to learn. We wanted to introduce real life scenarios and situations and experience and learning experiences with what they were learning in school so that they would feel it would be more valuable for them to go to school. We kind of saw like a lack of motivation, a lack of almost respect for the school system because, our kids, they had an opportunity to reflect in COVID, and they were kind of like, this doesn't make sense. A lot of them were like, this doesn't make sense. It could not make sense for their lifestyle. It could not make sense for their future. And they were just not motivated. Plus, a lot of them went through like isolation. This is a traumatic thing. So a lot of them are dealing with PTSD, things like that. And school just didn't seem to be something that was a feasible thing to accomplish and do for a lot of our youth. And so we started with the Trailblazers after school program. I brought Bethany in. So like after I thought of this like crazy idea, I was like, I need help.
That's good.
And God was like, here you go. Thank you for asking. And I was like, thank you, God, for bringing her. And so she came on a soldier. She is a soldier right here. And she launched the Trailbreakers program, the after school program. And that happened for a year. And then D.O.V.E took off. And I was like, forget that. I know that you just got started with it, and it was a great idea. but I need you in D.O.V.E. And so then she moved over to D.O.V.E. as our curriculum coordinator for D.O.V.E. And we started working on a curriculum and a program structure that would fit the niche of Beaver County with D.O.V.E. And it was more of a clinical approach. So Trailblazers was kind of like our jumpstart. Like, let's see if this curriculum will work. Let's see what's going to work with this age group. What is going to bring them out? We went to skating a couple times. We took them skating, which was such a learning experience for, I think, everyone involved. And we tried to do some things to just get the energy going within like the middle school, high school community. And so then we started doing more intentional work, more clinical work, and that's where D.O.V.E. came in. Because after school, the Trailblazers program was more community based. It was just an after school pro-social program. So we did have curriculum, but it was really just an outlet for the kids, where D.O.V.E. is more of an intentional therapeutic approach. And so we brought along Dr. Becca, who came also like an angel to us. Man, she fits right in like a glove, fits right in like a glove. And she came along and was like, yeah, I'll build this program with you. and she started building the occupational assessment clinical side of the program, which really serves a deep purpose for our kids, because it allows them to not only be seen, but to actively work with the person with the physician that's seeing you, which is amazing to experience. I mean, oftentimes when you go to the doctor, it's a very sterile experience. Right. You know, you get assessed, they treat you, they give you your medication, or they give you the prescription of some sort, and then you're off, right? Or then you get referred to another specialist. Where this physician is able to assess. You are a physician.
No, I'm not.
You're a doctor.
I have a clinical doctorate. Yeah.
She's a clinical This clinical doctor. This clinical doctor is able to assess and in real time work with the kids, which gives an outlet to our treatment system here in the county, because we have a lot of awareness. We have a lot of mental health acceptance, right? We can accept mental health diagnosis in a magnitude, you know, on different levels, because of Miss Susan, just because of the culture that we're creating here in the county, but we don't have a lot of treatment outlets. So this allows there to be an interim and treatment. It kind of fits because they're able to work on the things that they've identified until they can, you know, get to a mental health therapist or get to a PCP, a physician, to get like their medication regimen and things like that. And then also working with Dr. Becca then to regulate their medication, to build healthy lifestyle skills so that they can maintain what the doctor has just given them. They can accept the diagnosis that was just given them, right? Because sometimes we say, yeah, we'll send you to treatment, we'll give you this diagnosis, but you have to work out how you're going to deal with it in your real life. You have to work out like what it means to you, where the participants get an opportunity in real time in a safe space to figure that out. And she does a fantastic job with that. I mean, in all realms, she's so talented, and she's able to see, the participants for where they're at, and then work with them in that, and then build like rapport within themselves because of that, because it's goals that, number one, they can relate to and they can attain, and they're finding success in it, which is building confidence. Right. Do you want to talk about your assessments? Because I just keep going on.
You're so good at it, though.
Sometimes.
So I'm an occupational therapist. I don't know. Most people don't know what that is, but we work with people on doing what they want to do, how to do, or what's expected of them. So it can be a very medical profession, but it's also becoming more accepted in the community as a psychosocial approach towards people who are dysregulated, who have have trouble maintaining their routines, who have trouble pursuing interests for leisure or just for fun, who have trouble maybe looking towards the future and like building next steps for themselves. And so with this population especially, we work a lot on building and maintaining routines, on building healthy habits, on engaging in occupations that they enjoy, but are also, you know, maybe sanctioned by the community. We also work on managing social relationships. So a lot of our kids have trouble creating a relationship that's meaningful and then sustaining it. So we do a lot of social work, almost like not the profession, but, you know, socially engaging with each other. So I run a group every week where we do different things. So sometimes it's very focused on a specific psychosocial aspect that I'm noticing the kids are struggling with. So maybe that is managing triggers, maybe that is self-esteem or self-confidence. And sometimes it's a lot more like team building and, you know, engaging them with their peers in a very intentional way. So like, how can we, you know, do this together versus, you know, I'm just going to do this alone. So we work a lot on that. And then, you know, it kind of depends kid to kid. So I work with all of them on setting their own goals. So we do a series of assessments that look at all sorts of things. So I do a role checklist, which sees what roles that they're actively engaging in and which ones they find meaningful. I do a time log that just kind of looks at like, how are we spending our time? Is there room here where we could, you know, maybe add something that you enjoy? Is there, you know, something here that's taking up way too much time that we can shorten, you know, trying to figure that out. So a lot of the kids have caregiver responsibilities. So we also look at like, how can I take care of my younger siblings while also doing something that I enjoy, right? So how can you merge the two? I do mental health screening, so that way if we do refer them to a mental health professional, they have that data and can kind of quickly pick up on what's going on. It's also really important because a lot of our kids do struggle with depression, anxiety, so it's good to know kind of like where they're at when they come in. So if there ever is something that, you know, is something teetering on like we really need someone right here, right now, we have that, you know, number. And then I do something called the CAWA, which is actually a really cool assessment. It's my favorite. We compare our life to a river. So what we do is we kind of identify rocks, which are obstacles in our lives, and then we come up with driftwood, which are our strengths that help us push through those obstacles. And then we come up with river banks, which are our environments. So positive environmental factors and negative environmental factors. Then we kind of take a whole look at the whole thing and we determine what our, sounds very like Star Warsy, but what our life force is, right? So like what motivates us, what keeps us going every day, what are our dreams, our hopes. And then I do another thing called the sensory profile, which looks at, you know, there's all of our senses, right? And we actually have a couple more than most people know about. And it looks at different unique things that maybe we need to succeed. So a lot of our kids actually do really well when the lights are off and it's a little bit darker in the room. So we make just like slight adjustments to the environment based off of those reports so we can really help that child succeed. We have another, you know, we have a couple of kids who don't do well when there's a lot of people in the room and there's a lot of talking. So we give them an alternative space so they can do their work. And then after all that, we come up with goals. So I sit with the student and I have like a guided worksheet we do, but it's very much initiated by the student. So we come up with at least 3 areas that they want to work on. They can have to do with school, but they can also do with whatever is important to them right now. So it could be getting a job. It could be getting your permit. It could be working on your romantic relationship, setting boundaries, you know. Getting enough sleep is a huge one. It's like seems to be every kid. So, you know, we just kind of determine what is important to them in that moment. And then, you know, I come up with an intervention plan and we work on that each time I see them. So it's a very like, you know, goals-based intervention strategy that I've tried to build. And then, you know, they get both individual intervention sessions and the group sessions as well. So yeah, so that's like in a nutshell. But then I also help support the program however it needs to be. So I help support with behaviors, with running the flow of everything that's going on. And sometimes there's a student that comes in and they've had a really awful weekend, something really bad just happened. So I get pulled into, you know, whatever situation that is in the moment. So yeah, so I'm rambling, but I'm gonna.
It's a lot of good information. Definitely a lot. What are the age ranges of kids that are here?
So we work with ages 12 to graduation age for our education track, and then for our work track, it's 14 and up because you have to be 14 to work. It just makes more sense.
And is this model new? Because I know growing up, there wasn't many mental health.
I wish I had it.
There wasn't many mental health outlets or things that were involved. Because it seems like normally things are reactive, right? Kid gets in trouble, then we're trying to figure out what's going on. But this seems a little proactive. Where you're actually in here with them. You know what I mean? I think that's extremely powerful, and I think it'll change the community.
Yeah, thank you.
Big time. That wasn't even a question.
Sure.
But
That's the goal.
That's the goal.
Yeah, definitely. So how long has D.O.V.E been up and running again?
So we started in September of
2022.
2022.
Okay.
So we've been running since September 2022. We're in our second term, getting ready to go into our third term. So we do terms because this is a temporary program. It's not a permanent thing.
For the students,
right? For the students, longevity. That's sustainability is my focus. But for the participants, it's temporary because we want to build agency. We work off the HOPE theory, which works with your agency and your pathways, you know, to build success, right? And so we want them to build independent success. We don't want them to be dependent on this program. So we have terms that run for about 15 to 19 weeks long. And then at the end of the term, we have discharge plans. Now, the discharge plan could be to come back for another term, or it could be to transition into whatever they want to do, whether it's school or a job or anything like that. But we make sure that we continue to do that just so they can continue to work on being independent, building those expectations for themselves and stuff like that. So a student can come in between terms depending on what program they're in. If they're in education, they can come in anytime based off of their school district because we work with the school districts. The kids are actually the school district's kids.
So break that down. How's that process? How does a kid get here?
Yeah, so they can be referred anyway. It could be a family member. They could refer themselves. We've had a kid refer themselves. They could be school district. Right. It's a blessing. And, you know, I was so excited.
And what is it normally based on? Is it, because I heard you talk about COVID and you said there was a need. What was that need? What is the need that's like, yo, you fit this program? Or so this program could help you? Like, what is that?
So the need is just the obstacle, whatever obstacle they're trying to overcome. It could be anxiety, it could be depression, whatever's stopping them from feeling successful or from succeeding is what we...
And typically we have a lot of truancy kids, so kids who haven't been going to school in a while, and that usually stems from, you know, mental health stuff that's going on at home. So we work really closely with them to just build up that routine. Most of them haven't had a routine or haven't been attending school in some cases in years. So we're getting a lot of truancy. We're getting kids who are getting into fights at school and who the school honestly doesn't want to deal with in that moment. Not necessarily that they, I don't know, that sounded wrong, but they need extra support in supporting that student. So and
they need to ensure that their school
other kids are safe.
Right.
So we have referrals from that, and then we also have referrals for kids who are involved in the judicial system. So kids who are have charges, who maybe have come out of juvie and need help transitioning back into the schools. So it's supposed to be a transition-based program, no matter if it's coming from the school or from the judicial system. So the idea is that they eventually transition back into school or into, a career.
I think one of the things I really love about this is that for a community who traditionally doesn't like see therapy, like these kids actually get to have language. You know what I mean, to put with how they're feeling. Like,
so we work a lot on that. So like even just identifying what emotions are, because like a lot of them, they're like, I don't even know what I'm feeling right now. So it's like, okay, what is it? Let's break it down, and then how can we like calm down and
right? Because
get
once
to a
you
place.
Understand it, and once you can put a name to it, you can now put a plan in place and realize this isn't just something I have to deal with for the rest of my life. I can actually work on this.
Yeah.
So I love this. Yeah, we just been talking on, man. So if there's anything you want to jump in and.
We just talked about like assessment.
Talk about like what you do.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that I do is I kind of, I connect with the different pieces of the students' lives. So, our participants are referred from JSD, CYS, school districts, sometimes their parents. They come from a lot of different places. And a lot of them have seen a lot of moving parts of being part of the system. And it can be hard to get your head around like all these people that you have to talk to. So I try to keep a good relationship with all the different people that are part of their lives. Make sure that their parents understand their expectations, work with their case managers who are doing phenomenal work, and just try to bring their expectations as close together as possible so that they understand, this is what I have to do to get to where I'm going next. And then I work with them to transition out, like, how long do I need to be here to learn the consistency, to learn, what's happening inside of me? How can I reach my goals? What even are my goals? Who do I, think of myself as? And so we figure out, okay, where am I right now? Where do I want to go next? And then I work with the school districts to kind of help facilitate with some of those next steps. So some of our kids are seniors and they're graduating either with our education programs, so through like online school. Some of them are working off of IEP goals. So we're trying to make sure that they have the life skills that they need to be ready for what's next, getting involved in college or an apprenticeship or a job.
Or owning a farm.
So we've got kids who are kind of all have different expectations for themselves and what they want. So we get to do this exploration phase together, and it's really exciting. So I kind of help keep the pieces in order and make sure that they know what they're working toward, and make sure that is something that they want to be working toward. So that's a little piece of what I do.
Yeah. A little piece. There's a lot that goes in that, because putting all the pieces together is not an easy thing. But then putting all the pieces together with the participant in the center, so that the participant actually knows what's going on, is even more difficult, right? Because they have their own desires and expectations, but they still have people around them that's influencing them and things like that. And Bethany does a really, really great job with connecting the kids, and from the very beginning allowing the kids to know that I see you. I see you exactly where you are, exactly who you are, and I will continue to see you. And she stays with that consistent, and that builds that safety that allows that participant to say, like, I can come back, I want to come back. And so she says a little bit, but it is so much, because she's building that rapport, that safety that brings that participant back in, that makes that participant say, like, I can be successful in something, in this, in whatever,
Okay. Yeah.
Building them up where they're at.
So question. So pre-COVID, right? You guys worked with kids pre-COVID, right?
Yeah.
So post-COVID, have you guys seen any declines in like any areas, any increases in certain areas, just based on working with kids prior to COVID and then working with kids post-COVID?
Oh, absolutely. I think motivation is a big thing. Their willingness to participate and be open, and their motivation to like work through something, I think has been depleted. They were kind of like lost in the sauce while the adults were trying to figure it out, and through that they kind of just were able to just do their own thing. And in some stages of growth, in an adolescent, like you have to have some of those challenges to build that, and they miss that in some areas, and I think that it's not their fault, right? And so they're dealing with something that they don't even know that they're lacking in, and they're trying to figure it out, and they're like, I don't understand why you don't get it, but they also don't understand why they don't get it, and so I think it's a lot has a lot to do with motivation and just building that confidence in their agency that they can do that it's worth doing a hard thing, and that there is a reward in it. I've seen.
Yeah, I think a lot of them experienced disconnect with COVID. I think all of us experienced a level of disconnect with COVID. And so being removed from the classroom, especially students that require really hands-on interaction, there were increased levels of anxiety, that lack of motivation, just like a general shutdown of like, I don't know, they're in their own little worlds, a lot of depression, and just, figuring out what do I have to do, and like realizing that there's like nothing that you have to, you can just kind of sit there. And so for them, it's kind of like, how do you wake up? Everybody was on pause for so long, and it was also watching adults struggle and figure out, what do I do? Because you have all these teachers who are used to teaching in a particular way, and were just abruptly put into this new arena, and they don't know how to engage kids, or they're trying to engage kids that are also going through something really traumatic, and how do you bridge so many gaps at once that no one was anticipating? So I think it was a struggle for everybody in a lot of ways. And so now it's like, okay, we're able to kind of pick up pieces. We're back in the building. And so they've got all these kids who got overwhelmed and are not sure how to get themselves plugged back in. And so it's slowly trying to build the bridges back into being in this education system. And if you were a kid who was struggling even before then with motivation, who was struggling before then to get into the school building, I think it made it even easier to get lost. Just because it's hard to keep track of so many people who are so spread out, even physically. So definitely challenges that I think everybody is trying to figure out how to overcome.
Absolutely.
I'll also add there's like an attention element. So research has shown, just in general with the introduction of phones and iPads when kids are super young, that it's having a negative effect on your ability to sustain attention. And then add on to that COVID, where no one can tell if you have a phone in front of you. No one can tell if you have TV on in the background while you're listening to school. I know for myself that it's very easy to get caught in the scrolling, right? And I noticed, during COVID, that I was beginning to have a hard time concentrating on a video that lasted longer than 3 minutes. Now imagine you're a kid who has had that kind of instant gratification constantly, from a very young age. And now on to that, you have school going on, and you have 3 other things, playing in the background, scrolling on your phone. So we're noticing a lot of that here. So like they have a really hard time maintaining attention for longer than 15, 20 minutes. And so we work a lot on that. We work a lot on how can I do something that I don't want to do and maintain my attention. So I have to sit in this uncomfortable spot, and kind of push through that. So a lot of what we do here, I feel like, is celebrating the really little wins. Like earlier today, we had a student whose grade went up by 1 point, and that was a really big deal. I'll also say with COVID, there was a decreased chance of participating socially, right? So you're not seeing your friends necessarily as much. And you're also not necessarily going to a safe place as much. So a lot of our kids come from backgrounds where home is not necessarily the safest place. And so, whether or not they liked going to school was a different environment that they could go in and that they could see their friends and that there was at least one other safe person around. Now you're stuck at home. You're stuck in that environment. And so I think a lot of our kids started having, mental health issues. And then also we're kind of, asking for help in a way that wasn't just straight up asking, right? So by getting involved in, maybe some situations that weren't so good that maybe led to some charges were actually more so just outcries for, I need someone to see me. I need someone to like pull me out of this, spot. I just need to get out of my house, And so I think a lot of that, behaviors almost seem to regulate once they're in a safe place and are, given a chance to kind of process what they go through at home, in the past and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like COVID is kind of this like trifecta of like all this stuff that's going on. And when you don't have that right support, you don't have someone waking you up. You don't have someone, telling you to put your phone away. It's so easy to get caught up in that. And, they're ultimately kids. I think we like to see them as many adults, and they're not. They're children.
And even adults have the same problem.
That's like I noticed it.
There's no coach. Is anybody coming to practice?
Yeah,
exactly.
No matter what the age is.
Yeah.
I'm not going to.
Yeah. You have any more questions?
No.
Well, before we end, I know we talked about, how can community members find D.O.V.E? Like, how can they find information about D.O.V.E?
So we're working on getting it on the Trails Ministries website, but you can go on Trails Ministries and you can get my information and you can connect with me either email, my phone number, call, text, and if you're interested in a referral, reach out to any of us and we can get you a referral sheet and all you have to do is fill it out and we'll call you back and get the participants started.
Okay. And we also understand, I feel like a program like this is very powerful, but we know things cost.
Yes.
You know what I mean? There's needs. What does D.O.V.E need from the viewers out there who might have deep pockets?
Yes.
What does D.O.V.E need?
So our participants like to eat, and we didn't necessarily put a food budget in the beginning. We were banking on some resources that kind of didn't happen yet, and so we always need. We could take donations, snack donations. We can take monetary donations for our food program. We do have a kitchen staff that we have to fund, and also activities. If anybody is interested in sponsoring a celebration, an activity, we do like they said, we do celebrate wins because wins are important, and so we have a positive behavioral incentive program with D.O.V.E dollars where they can earn D.O.V.E dollars for certain things and then they can buy things. And our participants are older, and so they want the big boy, big girl things that cost big girl, big boy money, like paintball, and they want to go on quads, not just go-karts, right? And we want to be able to provide that for them because we want to give them those spaces. So if anybody's interested in sponsoring, a celebration or an activity, a community event, if you guys have land we can come and work on, or a project that we can participate in, please reach out to us. And please feel free to donate. We do
What's the number? Food, activities, events. What's the fundraising number? For all of those three, what do we need?
100,000.
40? 100.
We need $100,000. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Because I also we're moving back to Beaver Falls next month. But I want a D.O.V.E here in Aliquippa. I want to stay in Aliquippa so desperately bad, and so I want to build a satellite program. I'm working on a proposal for that. We want to build up our clinical department. We're looking at a clinical proposal. So we want to get things moving and get things going. So $100,000 could like go very far. We could create, a pilot program here in Aliquippa, and we can build our clinical program. We can get them the food. We can take them, go-karting and really give them what they deserve. Give our county what we deserve.
That's right.
I don't want Aliquippa and Hopewell and Ambridge to feel like Beaver Falls is too far. I want them to feel like they have the same resources as we do on the other side of the county. So I want to bring that to them. But we need the money. We need the funding to do that.
That's right.
So
the community needs it.
Another opportunity for community members to get involved is if they have openings, positions that they would be willing to partner with us, so our kids could work somewhere. We want to build a paid work experience that we can help out with. That would be the
Always
vision.
need help with filming.
Yeah, that would be
Perfect.
Oh,
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
We have some
That would be incredible.
artistic
We do. But having the opportunity to work for someone for a little bit, we try it out, and then have long-term employment, especially for our kids who are seniors who are transitioning out, or kids who, are helping with stuff at home. I think money can be a big stress, and so being able to create a program where they can partner with people in their community and get a job that will help, that will be sustainable for them, I think would be incredible for them, and it would be incredible for us to be able to build on those relationships.
Yeah, because a lot of their employment, they have to get a ride. They're young adults, right? And so they can't just walk to their jobs. They have to find a bus route. Then they have to have the bus schedule is their schedule, or they have to figure out how to Uber, things like that. So finding community employment partners is also a big thing to keep them within their community in a place that they can get to.
Yeah. And one of the things that we do, we try once a week to go out and introduce them to a piece of their community, whether that is going to an art museum. We went to Brady's Run, the library, getting them set up with a library card is part of that activity.
And they got a whole media room in the library.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That people don't even really know about. Cameras, mics, everything down there.
Yeah.
So really, what does my community have to offer me that I might not even see? Because a lot of times it's well, there's nothing to do here, and then you get distracted by other things. But seeing, what's around me, the opportunities to build hobbies, to see areas where you're good at things where you might not have even known you had a talent.
Absolutely.
So. Help us
another
find
thing.
you.
That's another thing. Mentorship. If anybody is interested in just, hanging out with the participants, being a mentor, you can be an individual mentor. You can come and eat lunch with the participants.
Yeah.
I mean, generational connection is so important. So if we can get, some of our older community members to come in and feed into the kids, just eating with them would be a treat, would be something that's powerful. But if you want to be an individual mentor, please, you can reach out to us. We can get you a mentor. There, all the participants could use one.
Yeah. And some of them don't have a positive role model in their life, and so that could really be helpful. But also with the jobs, I wanted to circle back. Sometimes if it's just a stepping stone into something else, that would be amazing. We have one student who's interested in farming, so we're trying to get him set up with an apprenticeship almost. And that is just a stepping stone, but it has made all the difference in his motivation, and he actually feels like he can see a future with that. But any kind of job opportunity I think would be huge. Also just in helping them learn responsibility, right? Yeah. So it's hard to keep a routine for school, but when you have a job, you need to keep that routine. You need to have certain behaviors. You need to be professional. So if you are willing to take a student, that would also be amazing if you could help them with that too. So if they, are 10 minutes late one day, trying to work with them on figuring out how can we make you 10 minutes early the next day, So any kind of assistance or openings or anything that you might even just have heard about would be really helpful.
And we can help train in that relationship too.
Yeah.
Yes.
What do I expect?
So we'll partner with you. We're not gonna
we're not going to leave you to the wolves. Absolutely not. No. We'll partner partner with you. We'll train you. You'll be a part of our training programs, things like that. So we won't just leave you hanging. But, yeah.
Sounds good.
Intentional. We want to be intentional with everything we do. That's
and we'll give you
that's it.
trainings on like trauma informed care and all that kind of stuff. So you're not walking alone. We'll be walking with you.
Sounds good, man.
Yeah, and another thing, if any agencies, I'm sorry,
Not good.
but if any agencies is looking for some trauma training, Dr. Becca does amazing trauma training. So even getting agencies connected with what we do and getting us all trained in
And
the same
partnerships
things.
too. Like we could do,
Partnerships.
group outings with other kids. That would be awesome. So
With other
anything like
programs,
that.
yeah.
It's dope, man. This is dope, man. Well, thank y'all for being here.
Thank
Shake your
you.
hand. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for showcasing
Thank you.
us.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
We appreciate it.
That's it.